Hello, this is Shambhavi. Welcome to Satsang. Satsang is an ancient spiritual practice from India. It means being in reality together. I give Satsang live every Wednesday and Sunday night in Portland, Maine. This Dharma talk was recorded during one of our Wednesday night gatherings. Please visit jayakula.org to learn more about the teachings. You can find video satsangs on Jayakula's YouTube channel, and my books are all available on Amazon.com. Much love to you, wherever and however you are. So somebody asked me to talk about lust, and I'm not really going to talk about lust in particular, but I'm going to talk about contentment versus discontentment. One of the great things about our reality is that it works the same way at every level. So whether you're a person living in a lot of darkness, experiencing a lot of compulsion, feeling that your life is out of control or controlled by intense emotions and desires, or whether you're a person who's doing a lot of spiritual practice every day and has your heart and mind focused on waking up, you're really operating with the same basic components of your life. There really isn't any big break between someone who's, say, controlled by lust or controlled by alcohol or drugs and someone who is doing meditation every day and leading a clean and sober life. Both of those situations are governed by the play of discontentment and contentment. It's just a matter of how much awareness, how big of a view, and how much compulsion somebody is under when they're experiencing discontentment. So discontentment, or we could just say a feeling of lack that gives rise to a desire to do something about that feeling of lack, is built into reality. It's a feeling of lack and a discontentment with feeling lack that causes someone to shoot heroin. It also causes someone to seek a spiritual teacher. I mean, it's the same feeling. It's just expressed in a different way. So it's really beautiful how the same feeling of discontentment and lack, or the perception of lack and the discontentment that arises because of that, is driving all of us in different ways. It means that we don't have to experience so much separation between all of the different people that are experiencing lack in their own way. We all experience lack and we all experience discontentment because of that. And this is built into our manifest life. It's unavoidable. We are all seeking some sort of satisfaction or contentment in whatever way that we are. So we have this unique dimension where we are experiencing different degrees of lack, different degrees of discontentment, and different ways of trying to resolve that. Those expressions are very unique to each of us. But the actual feeling is the same for everyone. So if you think about when you are hungry, or when you are just feeling a gnawing sense of I need something, or when, and you don't even know what it is, or we always joke around at Jayakula in our community that about people who just stand in front of the refrigerator looking for something, right? There's this great movie about a Buddhist teacher where one of the students talks about that. And he says, we do that, but what you're looking for is not in the refrigerator. So I like to quote that because
I found that it's right in front of your face in the refrigerator, and you just don't see it.
Good. So, whether we're high or whether we're sober, we all experience lack, and we are all trying to resolve that. We all are looking for the thing that is right in front of our face, and we can't find it because we have limitation of vision built into our configuration as manifest beings. In this tradition, those limitations, the basic fundamental limitations that we have, are called the kanchukas. And I'm not going to go into a big teaching like that, but it's basically limitations on perception, limitations on the limitation of having to be in one place and not in all places, the limitations of having limited knowledge and not omniscience, the limitation of having to be in linear time, being subject to birth and death. These are all the very, very fundamental limitations that we're experiencing that give rise to our basic experience of separation. And that basic experience of separation is the cause of our discontent. We are all looking to reconnect in some way or another. Whether it's this gnawing feeling of lust that drives us to connect with people sexually, or whether it's this gnawing feeling of just this burden of being an individual that causes us to drink or do drugs, or whether it's this gnawing feeling that there's just something more and I hate being so limited, that causes us to seek something in our career or our family or in a love relationship, or whether it's a gnawing feeling that I know there's more here, that causes us to seek out a spiritual tradition and seek out a teacher and start doing practice. It is all exactly the same thing. It's how gross is it? How dense is it? How intense is it? How much awareness do we have of what it is that we are really lacking? And the beautiful thing about recognizing that all these different expressions of lack and discontent come from the exact same feeling is that we can be much more compassionate with people that are doing stuff that we consider to be screwed up, right? And with ourselves too, when we do those things. So we can be much more compassionate when we recognize that other people are doing exactly the same thing we're doing, but in their own way. The thing that we are all seeking is to rediscover the experience of continuity with life, to rediscover the fact that we are not literally individuals. We are individual styles of this one continuous reality. We are the waves in the ocean that are continuous with the ocean. We are not little waves wandering around with little wave feet on our own, right? So we are looking to rediscover our literal continuity with the ocean of consciousness and energy. Every single person who feels lack is trying to rediscover that. So the teaching in the tradition, not just the tantric tradition, but almost all the Indian traditions and other traditions from Asia also, is that contentment only becomes our permanent condition when we permanently recognize and rediscover that continuity. All other forms of our attempts to resolve our feeling of separation and therefore lack and discontentment, all other forms, such as all the things I just said, plus regular old love relationships and buying a house and having a good job and fulfilling ourselves in our career or whatever, all of those other things are only temporary appeasements. And that the feeling of lack and discontent will always resurface. And in fact, that feeling of discontent is valued in the tantric tradition at least, and was also by my teacher, Nanda Mayama. She often taught in satsang herself that discontent drives spiritual practice, that we must feel discontent in order to do spiritual practice, and that we should value that discontent. not try to ameliorate it by binge watching Battlestar Galactica. What else? That might ameliorate it for, about 19 hours. I don't know how long it takes to... But then after that time, you're just left feeling just as empty as ever, right? So the teaching of this tradition and of my teachers is that the only thing that's going to bring about a permanent feeling of satisfaction and contentment is to rediscover who you really are and what your actual condition is, which is continuity. You can kind of just let yourself hear that and not really question whether you actually believe it or understand anything about it at all. Because when I say continuity, I mean that literally. I do not mean just a nice feeling of connection. That's good, but that's just a pale echo of what I'm talking about. I'm talking about literally for reals, getting it that you don't end at your skin. Literally for reals, getting it that you are an aspect of one infinite consciousness and energy, and that you are an expression of that you are that playing the role of you, and that you're having an individualized experience. For that's actually true. Of course, it's obvious. But that you aren't actually an individual, and there actually are no distinct objects here anywhere. And that there is no emptiness, there is no space between us. These are all experiences that this one consciousness and energy is giving rise to in order to have an aesthetic experience of all this diversity. So I am not talking metaphorically, and you should consider that. Because I'm not really interested in encouraging people to just go, oh yeah, oneness. I'd love you to actually seriously consider it and think about how do you really relate to that idea. Maybe you think it's a bunch of hogwash, and it's better to have the conviction that it's a bunch of hogwash than to just think it's that fuzzy, nice feeling of ordinary connection where everyone still gets to stay separate. It's not that. It's important to say that, especially in a yoga studio, and especially in our yoga culture here in the U.S., because that oneness word gets thrown around a lot. And I often wonder how many people actually consider that it's actually real. And it's not just a nice feeling of something. It's actually terrifying. Right. What if you were really in it for yoga? Yoga means union. What if you were really in it for yoga? Rediscovering your primordial union with everything. Wow. That's like jumping off a cliff. That isn't a nice little happy, easy, feel-goody thing that you can write yoga Hallmark cards about. Right? It's scary. What if you were actually in it for yoga? So that's actual yoga is what brings contentment. Right. Because then there's no one to struggle with. And there's nothing to attain. Yeah.
I just got through sitting in Yom Kippur services. And it had been a while since I had attended. And for me, there's no way that I can see beyond my own skin. I mean, I'm nowhere close to that. I get that. But for me, going into that service with the conceptual framework that everything is God, and to sit in that service which talks about this sort of God who is someplace else giving approval and giving us absolution, it changed the way that I experienced that service in terms of, I was in there thinking, all of this is God, everything is God. I am God. And I am fundamentally all right. Mm-hmm. Whatever mistakes I make, mm-hmm. I can work on those mistakes. But I don't need some higher power who's someplace else telling me that I have value and that I have value.
You don't have to wait until you're totally enlightened, or even a quarter enlightened, to have enough experience of that continuity and your basic goodness that you can proceed from that, right? You don't have to be totally enlightened to have that as your base, where you understand that all the stuff that you're doing that you disapprove of yourself is God showing up that way, and that it is all good, it is all okay, it is fine, and you are made of that wisdom virtue, right? That fundamental auspiciousness, what's called basic goodness. So it's beautiful that we don't have to wait till some mythical time when we're going to be totally enlightened to have this be our new base of experience from doing actual practice that actually gives us that experience. Jayakula is a nonprofit community offering opportunities to learn and practice in the direct realization traditions of Trika Shaivism and Dzogchen. We are based in Portland, Maine and Portland, Oregon. Visit jayakula.org to explore more of our offerings.